Okay, this is our first part of 6.1 where we're going to be working with writing percents as decimals. So to convert a percent to a decimal, we have to remember that percents are always of 100. So a perfect score on a test is 100%. So percents are always of 100. One visual cue that I can give you is that percent sign. If you were to piece that apart, you have a straight line and two circles that make up this shape for our percent sign. So that means of 100. So 23% is the same as 23 hundredths, which looks like this as a decimal, 0.23. Another way that you can do that is instead of having to convert it into its fraction form is if you think of where your decimal is on your percent sign, it's sitting right behind the last digit unless it's shown. Okay, so it's sitting right here. You're going to move. See how there's two circles? You're going to move two places away from it being a percent or away from the percent sign. So two places becomes that 0.23. The same exact thing as that. So you can either convert it to its fraction form or you can move two places away from that percent sign because you're moving it away from being a percent. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice a few of these. Okay, so if I were to give you 5%, okay, and these ones are tricky. You have to remember you're always going two places. As a fraction, it looks like this, 5 over 100, because remember, a percent is always of 100. Okay, now, yes, we could reduce that down, but that's not going to help us in converting it to its decimal form. If they were asking us to do the fraction form, we would have to reduce that down. Okay, so 5 hundredths would look like this as a decimal, 0.05. Oftentimes, I will just expect you to do that part of it, but the book will always put that 0 in front of the decimal. Okay, you'll notice if I were to just go straight out of the percent, remember I would go two places away from that percent sign. So my decimal's not shown, which means it's there, two places away. 1, 2, I would throw a 0 in the front, 0.05. Notice these are the same answer. Okay, so you have to choose, do I want to change it to a fraction or do I just want to move the decimal? I personally like to just move the decimal. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this one. The first one says write 52% as a decimal and write 7% as a decimal. So 52% would look like this as a fraction. And then we would have to reduce that down, but if we're going just straight into the decimal form, it would be 0.52, okay? Or decimal currently is right there. We would go two places away from that percent sign because we want to move it away from being a percent. It's still going to get us there. Okay, so 7%, I'm going to go directly into its decimal form. Decimal currently not shown, which means it's there. 1, 2, this would be 0.07. Okay, so oops. Let's have you guys try one out here. Try this one out. Pause your video, work through this one, convert that into its decimal form, and then check back in just a moment. Okay, I'm going to go two places away from the percent sign. So two places away from where it is currently gives me 0.927. Okay, if I were to go directly into the fraction form, it would have been this, 92.7 over 100. Well, you can't leave a decimal in a fraction, so you would have to move this over one place. Whatever you do to the bottom, you would have to do to the top. So it would become 927 over 1,000, which is the same as this, 927 thousandths. Okay, so just moving the decimal is going to convert that. But you have to remember, if you choose to go into the fraction form like I did here, you have to move your decimal out of that top, which then whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. Okay, 107% as a decimal. Okay, so if I go directly out of the the percent form, my decimal's not shown, it means it's right there. So 2 places, 1, 2 becomes 1.07. Okay, this is my final answer, 1.07. As a fraction, it would be 107 over 100, and then I would have to reduce that down. 100 will go into 107 once. I would have 7 left over 100. Okay, here's my 700ths right there. So it would be 1 point, and then 700ths is 0.07. So just remembering it's a quick move of a decimal. If you want to convert it into the fraction form, remember that you cannot leave a decimal in the top number. You have to convert that out. So let's try one more of those. Okay, I'm going to take this one off, and we're going to try one more. If I were to give you, okay, so let's say we had 13.3%. Okay, if I were to do that as a fraction, it would be 13.3 over 100 originally. Now I have to change it so I don't have that decimal in there. I have to go one place, which means I have to go one more place on the bottom. It'd be 133 over 1,000. Okay, now, not that you have to go here, but you do have to understand when I assess you, you will have to convert back to a fraction. This is a format that you guys learned earlier in the year, okay? It's just they didn't have you work with decimals at that time. Okay, if I were to write this out, I would have 1, 2, 3 zeros as my bottom. So I'm going to have 3 numbers behind my decimal. So it's 0.133 or 0.133. Okay, this is the decimal format. And I could have gotten there straight from going here, just moving my decimal 2 places. You have to decide what you're comfortable with, but please note that you will have to also understand assessment time, how to write those decimals back into fractions, which is a review skill. Okay, so we're kind of reviewing it within this lesson. Good luck. Just remember it's 2 places because you have 2 circles on that percent sign. So that should help you remember to go only 2 places, no more, no less.